You look tired, sir,
said the little girl on the plane. The CEO didn't expect that she'd change his life forever. Nathan Hale adjusted the cuff of his navy wool coat as he stepped into the narrow aisle of the packed commercial flight from Seattle to Boston. It was a red-eye, and he hated red-eyes. First class was full, leaving him, much to his quiet annoyance, with a seat in economy. Row 18C, window. He moved past a couple, arguing about overhead bin space, and slipped into his seat, letting out a slow breath as he sank into the fabric. The hum of engines preparing for takeoff filled the cabin, matching the static in his head after a relentless week of boardroom battles and press interviews. Nathan looked every bit the high-powered CEO, tailored slacks, sleek leather shoes, a watch that cost more than some people's rent, but his face gave him away. The lines around his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the subtle slump of his shoulders. He looked like a man worn thin. He pulled a folded newspaper from the seat pocket, but his eyes skimmed the page without processing a word. His mind was already shutting down. Then came the shuffle of small feet. A little girl, no older than 3, in a bright pink dress and a green turtle-shaped backpack, appeared beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. "That's our seat, Mommy. Look, it has a window." She clambered into the middle seat with the kind of excitement only a child could have about flying, her shoes kicking lightly against the seat in front of her. Nathan offered a polite smile and turned to the window, hoping she would quiet down. Then came the voice, soft, curious. "You look tired, sir." Nathan turned slightly. The girl was looking up at him with big, sincere eyes, her tone not mocking, just concerned. He cleared his throat. "I'm fine," he said flatly. She didn't seem convinced, but she said nothing more, just smiled faintly and settled in, swinging her legs as she dug into her backpack. To his surprise, she didn't fidget or whine. She looked around in quiet fascination, fingers clutching the straps of her bag, which was slightly too big for her small frame. Nathan glanced at her again. She had soft, blonde curls that bounced as she moved, and cheeks round with youth. Her dress was rumpled from travel, but clean. A small stuffed bunny peeked from her backpack's zipper. In the aisle seat, her mother had already fallen asleep, head tilted to the side, wavy blonde hair falling over her shoulder. Her features were soft but exhausted. She looked young, too young for the weariness in her face. Her arms folded over her purse, breathing deep with the kind of sleep born of sheer fatigue. The girl looked at her mother, then back at Nathan. She held out something, half a chocolate chip cookie, wrapped in a napkin. "For you," she said simply. He blinked. "No, thank you," he replied. Her brow furrowed slightly. "You can have it. I have more." Nathan hesitated. Something in her open, unbothered expression made it hard to say no. He took the cookie. "Thank you," he said, quietly. She smiled. Like that one word made her day. He took a bite. Sweet, crumbly. The plane began to taxi. The lights dimmed. Nathan leaned back, closing his eyes. The girl adjusted, leaned her head against the armrest, and hugged her stuffed bunny. Her mother remained asleep, chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Nathan opened his eyes once more, glancing at the small figure beside him. A strange warmth settled in his chest, unfamiliar but not unwelcome. For the first time in a long while, someone had looked at him and seen him. Not the suit, not the company. Just a tired man. And that someone was a little girl with a green backpack. The cabin lights dimmed as the flight cruised above the clouds. Nathan sat still, shoulder slightly stiff under the weight of the sleeping child. Sophie's tiny head had found its way to his upper arm after she handed him that half cookie. He had not had the heart to move. Outside, the world had vanished into darkness, pierced only by scattered lights glowing like distant memories. Beside him, the woman in the aisle seat stirred. Her head lifted slowly. She blinked, disoriented, until she realized her daughter was no longer next to her. "Sophie," she said, upright now, voice hushed but sharp with worry. Nathan gestured for silence, then pointed to the girl asleep against him. "She's okay," he said gently. "She fell asleep a little while ago." The woman, Elena, exhaled deeply. Her shoulders sagged. One hand went to her chest, then reached to touch her daughter's back, just to be sure. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice raspy. "I didn't mean to doze off. I must have been more tired than I thought." Nathan shook his head. "No harm done." She pushed back some tousled blonde hair and gave him an apologetic smile, soft, a little embarrassed. "I just finished 3 overnight shifts. Got off work at 5 this morning, came straight to the airport. Thought I could stay awake." He glanced at her, really looked young, but weary. Eyes lined from sleepless nights, faint circles beneath them. But her voice was warm, and the way she gently rubbed Sophie's back said more than words. "You work in healthcare?" he asked. "Yeah, nurse assistant, technically. Temporary position." He nodded, then looked down at Sophie, who shifted slightly in her sleep, a faint smile on her lips. "She's surprisingly good company," he murmured. Elena chuckled. "That's Sophie. She thinks strangers are just friends we haven't met yet." Nathan smirked, fleeting but real. "I noticed." They sat quietly, the white noise of the cabin settling around them. The space between them felt oddly safe. Not intimate, just human. "She's very thoughtful," he said. "Offered me half a cookie earlier." Elena smiled, a hint of pride. "She does that when she thinks someone needs cheering up. She's observant." Nathan glanced at the crumb still in his hand, then at Sophie. She was right. Elena tilted her head, as if trying to read his tone, but said nothing. "I'm Elena, by the way," she offered, adjusting Sophie's blanket. "Nathan." She nodded. "Thank you for watching her. Not everyone's patient with kids." "She's easier to be around than most adults I know," he said, the corners of his mouth lifting. Elena's expression softened. She looked at Sophie, then back at Nathan. "She sees people, sometimes better than adults do." Nathan looked toward the window. "Maybe that's because she hasn't learned how to look away yet." Silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, just thoughtful. Outside, the plane soared above a sea of clouds, the sky vast and black. Nathan closed his eyes, letting the hum of the engines drown his thoughts. But the image of that tiny hand offering him half a cookie wouldn't leave. By the time the plane landed in Boston, the moment had passed. Nathan disembarked, briefcase in hand, purposeful gait returning. No words were exchanged, just a glance back at the tired woman and the sleeping child with the green backpack. But as terminal lights blinked overhead and the crowd swept him away, Nathan couldn't shake the quiet feeling that something inside had shifted. He was not sure what it meant, only that it had been a very long time since he'd felt it. Boston greeted him with drizzle and gray skies. A black car waited at the curb. The driver held an umbrella, but Nathan barely noticed the chill. His mind was elsewhere, still somewhere at 35,000 feet. The quiet kindness of a stranger's child should not have stayed with him. And yet, it had. Back home, he poured himself one drink, like always, and stood by the tall window of his penthouse. The city glittered below, but none of it reached him. It never had. His eyes dropped to a photo frame on a low shelf. Dust clung to the edges. He hadn't touched it in years. Emily. His wife, his best friend, the one who loved him before the success, before the suits. They were married 10 months before a rainy night, a red light, and a phone call that shattered everything. He buried her in the fall. The leaves were red that day. She would have loved that. Since then, life had become efficient. Meetings, mergers, expansion, no distractions. Only responsibility. Especially now, with his mother's health fading, donor lists, blood types, and risk-filled every conversation. He visited, signed forms, asked questions, then went back to work. It was how he survived structured emptiness. But for the first time in 5 years, something had broken the rhythm. And it had started with a girl in a pink dress and a green backpack. The scent of antiseptic hit Nathan the moment he stepped through the sliding glass doors of the hospital. Cold, clean, clinical, just like every visit before. He passed the reception desk with a quiet nod and took the elevator to the 6th floor, where his mother had been admitted for another round of tests. The hepatology wing was quiet, the kind of silence filled with muted beeping monitors and tired footsteps. Nathan had never liked hospitals. They were places of endings, of waiting, of helplessness. He tucked his hands into his coat pockets as he turned a corner toward the nurse's station. He had come to check on donor registration updates, but as he walked down the hall, a familiar voice caught his attention. "Okay, Mr. Donovan, slow and steady. We've got all the time in the world." Nathan glanced toward the sound. A young woman in scrubs, light blue top, white coat loosely tied, was gently helping an elderly man with a walker. She walked beside him, voice calm and patient. It took him half a second to recognize her. The wavy blonde hair, the quiet strength in her voice, the eyes, warm but tired. Elena. He stopped without meaning to. She didn't see him at first. Her focus was on the older man, steadying his grip, adjusting his oxygen line. But then, Sophie appeared from around the corner, waddling toward them with the unmistakable glee of a child who recognized someone important. "Uncle Airplane!" she squealed. Nathan blinked. Sophie ran straight to him and wrapped her arms around his legs with surprising force. Her little pink shoes squeaked on the hospital floor. Nathan crouched slightly, caught between amusement and disbelief. "Hey there," he said, managing a smile. Elena turned quickly at the sound, her eyes widening. She froze for a split second, caught between shock and embarrassment. "You," she breathed, then recovered. "Hi." Nathan stood, nodding politely. "Elena. I didn't expect to see you here," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, clearly flustered. "Are you visiting someone?" "My mother," he replied. "She's being evaluated for a transplant. I come in a few times a week." Elena nodded. "I see." They stood in awkward silence before she motioned to the elderly man. "I should get Mr. Donovan back to his room," she said softly. Nathan stepped aside. "Of course." But Sophie clung to his leg again. "Wait, Mommy, can he come too?" Elena sighed gently. "Honey, he's busy." "It's fine," Nathan said, surprising himself. He walked with them as Elena helped Mr. Donovan back into bed. She was gentle but efficient, and Nathan observed her with quiet curiosity. Once the patient was settled, she turned back to him and Sophie, who was now in a visitor chair playing with the stethoscope dangling from her mother's pocket. "You work here?" he asked. Elena nodded. "Just night shifts, mostly assisting, sometimes mornings if someone calls in sick." "You're not a registered nurse?" Her lips tightened. "Not officially. I was in med school, Harvard." Nathan's brows lifted. "That's impressive." She gave a small, dismissive shrug. "Was. I dropped out in my 2nd year. Things got complicated." His eyes flicked to Sophie. Elena followed his gaze and nodded. "Yeah," she said. "Her father wasn't part of the plan. Neither was raising a child alone, working 2 jobs or barely scraping by." She didn't sound bitter, just tired, honest. Nathan's voice softened. "That's a lot." "It is what it is," she replied. "I'm not ashamed. But this isn't where I thought I'd be." He looked at her. No pretense, no dramatics, just quiet strength beneath fatigue. Then she said it, almost under her breath. "This is just temporary," she whispered. "I used to dream of being a surgeon." Her eyes flicked up to his, and for a second, Nathan didn't know what to say. He only knew he understood. Dreams left behind. Plans rewritten by loss. He saw her in a new light, not just as Sophie's mother, but as someone who had carried broken dreams with grace. someone who kept going, and something shifted in him again. Maybe fate did not come with grand announcements. Maybe it just walked quietly beside you, in scrubs and sneakers, holding a little girl's hand. The days following their unexpected reunion passed in quiet rhythms. Nathan found himself visiting the hospital more often, not just for updates on his mother's condition, but because something about that hallway, that moment, lingered. Elena never asked for anything. She moved through her shifts with steady focus, on the patients, on Sophie, on keeping everything from falling apart. But Nathan noticed things. The medical textbooks she read during breaks were old and worn. The notes scribbled on napkins and scraps. The way her hands trembled when she thought no one was watching. One afternoon, after a board meeting, Nathan left a small bag at the nurse's station. Inside were 2 pristine anatomy reference books from his university days, highlighted, bookmarked, like new. No note, no signature. The next morning, she found him waiting outside the coffee stand in the lobby. "You left those, didn't you?" she asked. He shrugged. "They were just sitting on my shelf." She smiled, a quiet, hesitant smile. "Thank you." It became a pattern. Nathan connected her with a retired Harvard professor who had once spoken at a fundraiser, arranged a brief meeting under the pretense of a casual visit. No promises, no pressure. Elena didn't protest, but she never asked for more. Meanwhile, Sophie grew fond of him. She insisted on calling him Uncle Star after Elena told a bedtime story about stars guiding people home. Each evening, without fail, Sophie video called him to say goodnight. Nathan, who once ignored personal calls, now set reminders so he would not miss them. He listened to her sing off-key cartoon songs, watched her show off drawings of Dr. Mommy, and once even wore a crown she made from napkins and tape. Her affection disarmed him. It melted barriers he thought were permanent. Still, Nathan kept his distance. He never reached for Elena's hand, never lingered too long in her gaze. Because deep inside, guilt still sat in his chest like a stone. One evening, after a late meeting, Nathan returned to the hospital to drop off insurance forms. The halls were dim and quiet. On his way out, he passed the staff break room and paused. The door was ajar. Inside, Elena sat on a bench, still in scrubs. Her hair was a little messy, shoes kicked off. Sophie lay curled in her lap, fast asleep, pink dress rumpled, green backpack on the floor. Elena hummed softly, rocking slightly, her arms wrapped around her daughter. She looked exhausted, but peaceful in a way Nathan had never seen. He stood there for a long moment, unnoticed. Then, quietly, he stepped in. Without a word, he removed his coat and gently draped it over her shoulders. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. "I didn't mean to wake you," he whispered. She blinked, registering him. "I must have. Dozed off. I was waiting for her to settle." He crouched beside them. "I'll sit with her. You rest." She looked at him, tired, surprised, grateful. Then, too weary to resist, she leaned back and closed her eyes. Nathan sat on the floor beside them, legs crossed, arms resting on his knees, watching Sophie's quiet breathing. A few minutes later, a nurse passed the doorway and stopped. She was older, gray-haired, with kind eyes. She looked at the scene, Elena sleeping under Nathan's coat, Sophie in her arms, and then at Nathan. She smiled, a deep, knowing smile. "No one has ever done that for her," she said, just above a whisper. Nathan said nothing, but something inside him twisted and softened, all at once. And for the first time in years, he allowed a thought to come, clear, terrifying, and true. Maybe he did not want to be alone anymore. Nathan sat alone in his office, late evening shadows stretching across the floor to ceiling windows. A stack of quarterly reports sat untouched on his desk. His laptop screen glowed with an open internal HR database, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, hesitating. He had not meant to look into Elena's name, But ever since their conversation, her soft whisper, "I used to dream of being a surgeon," had stayed with him like a weight he couldn't shake. He typed her name slowly. Elena Brooks. One result appeared. An application to Hawthorne Memorial, one of the private hospitals under his company's umbrella, dated nearly 2 years ago. It had been marked rejected, insufficient credentials, background inconsistency. Nathan frowned. He clicked through the notes. Left Harvard Med in year 2, single mother, no references, possible disciplinary gap, no mention of her clinical grades, no follow-up, no interview. His jaw tightened. He checked the approval chain. It had been processed by an entry-level HR manager. A rubber-stamped decision. No nuance, no context. Nathan sat back, rubbing his temple. This was his company, his name on the wall, and a woman like Elena, qualified, capable, trying, had been dismissed without even a conversation. The guilt crept in quietly. The next day, Nathan requested a review of the hiring protocols across all medical affiliates. Quietly, discreetly. He proposed a new initiative, a retraining and support program for medical candidates who had paused their education due to life circumstances. No press releases, no headlines, just a fix, starting with Elena. He didn't tell her, but the news found her anyway. She showed up at his office 2 days later, her face pale, jaw tight. "You went through my file," she said. No greeting, no smile. Nathan stood slowly. "Elena, you thought I wouldn't find out? That I'd just say thank you and feel grateful?" He took a breath. "I was trying to make it right." Her eyes burned. "By what? Pulling strings? You think I want pity? A fast pass because I had a baby?" "No," he said firmly, "because you deserve a fair shot, and you didn't get one. I don't need saving, Nathan." He stepped toward her, but she backed away. "I trusted you," she said, voice breaking. "But this feels like charity." Nathan watched her walk out the door. That night, the world felt colder again, until his phone rang just after midnight. It was Sophie's name, flashing on the screen. Elena must have used her daughter's tablet to call. When he picked up, he heard coughing, then Elena's panicked voice. "Sophie's burning up. 103.7. I can't get her fever down. I don't know what to do." "I'm coming," Nathan said without hesitation. He was out the door in 5 minutes. When he arrived at Elena's apartment, she looked more shaken than he had ever seen her. Sophie lay flushed on the couch, cheeks red, eyes glassy. Nathan took one look and scooped the little girl into his arms. "We're going to the hospital," he said. "Now." Elena did not argue. Hours later, Sophie was resting in a pediatric room, fever finally dropping after treatment. Elena sat beside her, head in her hands, silent. Nathan pulled up a chair next to her. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I should have asked you first. I should have trusted that you'd want to fight your way back on your own terms." She nodded slowly, tears brimming but not falling. I've spent so long doing everything alone. I didn't know how to let someone help without feeling small." He looked at her then, not the nurse's assistant, not the tired mother, but the woman who still dreamed of being a surgeon. "You're not small, Elena. You're the strongest person I've met." She turned to him, eyes full of something fragile. And for the first time since Emily, Nathan reached out, slowly, deliberately, and took someone's hand. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines and the steady hum of filtered air. Nathan sat beside the bed, staring at the frail figure lying under white sheets. His mother, Irene Hale, had always been a force, sharp-witted, fiercely independent, a woman who raised a son alone and taught him to build empires. But now, her skin was pale, her frame thinner, her breathing more labored with each passing day. The doctor's voice from earlier echoed in his mind. "We're running out of time. Her liver is deteriorating faster than expected. We need to find a match soon, or prepare for other outcomes. Nathan had spent the last 2 weeks calling every contact he had, pulling every string, but matches were rare, and live donors even rarer, especially for her uncommon blood type. He felt helpless, and Nathan Hale never felt helpless. That evening, as he sat in the hallway just outside her room, Elena approached quietly. She was still in scrubs from her morning shift, her hair pulled back loosely, tendrils falling around her tired face. "Nathan," she said gently. He looked up. "I did the test," she said. He blinked. "What test?" She sat down beside him. "The blood match. For your mother." Nathan straightened. "Elena, I'm compatible." His breath caught. No, absolutely not. "I'm healthy. I already spoke with the transplant team. I'm eligible." "No," he repeated, louder this time. "You're not doing this. This isn't your responsibility." "She needs a donor, Nathan. She needs a donor, not you. You have a daughter. You have a life. This is too dangerous." "I know the risks," she said calmly. He stood and paced, running a hand through his hair, frustration tightening his chest. "You don't owe me this. You don't owe her this. This isn't a movie, Elena. This is real. This is your body, your health." She stood too, her voice steady. "And your mother is running out of time. I won't let you risk yourself like this. I won't." She stepped closer. "You don't get to make that decision for me." Nathan looked at her then, really looked at her. The fire in her eyes, the calm certainty. She wasn't doing this out of guilt or gratitude. She was doing it out of love, compassion. But still, he couldn't bear the thought. "You think I could live with myself if something happened to you?" he said, his voice cracking for the first time in years. "After everything?" Elena's expression softened. She reached out, gently placing a hand on his chest. "She gave you life," she said, her voice low, warm. "Let me help give her a second one." Nathan swallowed hard. "You've already given me mine," she added, tears glimmering in her eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. He closed his eyes, his forehead pressing gently against hers. "You shouldn't have to do this," he whispered. "I want to," she replied. Later that night, Nathan stood at the foot of his mother's bed, watching her sleep. He held her hand, thin and cold in his, and for the first time in a long time, he prayed. Not just for a miracle, but for the courage to accept one when it came, in the form of someone he never expected. The morning light filtered softly through the hospital windows, casting warm golden stripes across the white-tiled floor. Outside, the city moved as usual, cars honking, people rushing, time slipping by. But inside room 614, time had paused. Nathan stood by his mother's bedside, one hand resting gently on her shoulder. Irene Hale stirred, then blinked against the light. Her face was pale, but her eyes, once clouded by fatigue and illness, now held a clarity Nathan had not seen in months. "Hey, Mom," he said softly. She turned her head, eyes meeting his, and then a faint smile curled on her lips. "You're here," she murmured, "and I'm still here." Nathan chuckled through a breath he did not realize he was holding. "Yeah, you made it through." Her gaze drifted past him, toward the woman standing quietly in the doorway. "Elena?" Elena stepped forward, wearing her usual scrubs, her hair loosely tied back, strands falling softly around her face. Her movements were careful. She was still recovering herself, but steady. Irene reached out a weak hand. Elena took it. "My girl," Irene whispered. "My brave, foolish, wonderful girl." Elena laughed gently, eyes glistening. "I'm just glad you're okay." "You saved my life," Irene said. Then, looking over at Nathan, she added with a smile, "And his, too, even if he's too proud to admit it." Nathan rolled his eyes with a soft smirk, but his heart swelled. Later that afternoon, he asked Elena and Sophie to meet him in the hospital's children's playroom, a colorful little space filled with art supplies, teddy bears, and quiet corners of joy tucked away from all the machines and medicine. Sophie skipped ahead in her pink dress, her green backpack bouncing with each step. Nathan was already waiting inside. Elena paused in the doorway, a bit confused. "You sure this is where you wanted to meet?" He nodded. "This room seems right." She stepped in as Sophie ran to a corner to pick out a stuffed bunny. Nathan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something wrapped in a small napkin. "I was thinking," he said, "about the moment everything changed for me." He unwrapped it, half a chocolate chip cookie. Elena stared. "This isn't the original," he said with a chuckle, "but I never forgot it." She raised an eyebrow, a small smile forming. "Sophie's cookie?" He nodded. "That flight, that night, I was exhausted. I was empty, really. I thought I had nothing left to give anyone. And then this tiny girl with crumbs on her cheeks handed me a broken cookie like it was the most important gift in the world." He took a breath, his voice steady. "And then she gave me you." Elena blinked back tears. Nathan knelt down on one knee, holding up the cookie. "I don't have a ring yet," he admitted, "but I have this, a promise, a beginning. Elena Brooks, will you build something messy, real, and beautiful with me? Will you marry me?" Elena covered her mouth with her hand, laughing through her tears. "With a cookie?" He grinned. It worked the first time. Sophie clapped from across the room, then ran over and threw her arms around Nathan. "Now you're not tired anymore, huh?" she giggled. Nathan hugged her tightly, his voice thick with emotion as he whispered into her ear. "No, sweetheart. You woke me up." Elena knelt beside them, and together, the three of them stayed there, in a room filled with tiny chairs and bright toys, surrounded by memories of sorrow and healing. What started as a chance meeting at 30,000 feet had brought them all to this moment. And it all started with a cookie. The late afternoon sun bathed the backyard in a golden hue. Leaves in amber and rust tones drifted from the maple trees surrounding the little white house in the Boston suburbs. Laughter echoed from the garden, where balloons danced in the breeze. A picnic table covered in pink paper was scattered with handmade decorations, drawings of cats, stars, and a big crayon-drawn number 4. Sophie's 4th birthday. She dashed through the grass in her signature pink dress, green backpack bouncing behind her, now filled with coloring books and plastic animals. Her cheeks were flushed with joy, a tiara slightly crooked on her head. She giggled under streamers, waving a ribbon wand like a parade leader. By the porch, Elena set down a tray of cupcakes. Her blonde hair was tied back in a loose braid, soft curls framing her face. She looked brighter, less tired, more alive. Dressed in a white button-up and jeans, a stethoscope in her pocket, she was months away from finishing her medical degree. A dream once lost was now within reach. Nathan stepped out with a gift wrapped in glittery pink paper, Sophie's pick, of course. In a navy sweater, sleeves pushed up, he looked more at ease than anyone could remember. He watched Elena for a moment, smiling. Inside, Irene Hale helped Sophie frost cupcakes. Her once pale face now warm with color, her movements steady. "Not too much, darling," Irene said, watching Sophie smear icing generously. "But maybe just a little more." Sophie grinned. "It's my birthday. We can break the rules, right?" "Absolutely," Irene winked. As the sun dipped low, the small group gathered around a cake topped with 4 flickering candles. They sang. Sophie squeezed her eyes shut, made a wish, and blew them out in one joyful puff. Nathan leaned in. "What did you wish for?" Sophie grinned. "Cake for breakfast tomorrow." He laughed. Dangerous thinking. Later, as twilight settled in and guests said goodbye, Nathan and Elena sat on the back steps, watching Sophie chase fireflies with a glowing jar. "I still can't believe this is our life," Elena said softly. He nodded. "I know." She rested her head on his shoulder. "We almost missed it." "But we didn't," he replied, wrapping his arm around her. They sat quietly, watching. Then, like a memory come to life, Sophie ran across the lawn, green backpack bouncing, pink dress catching the breeze. She turned, waved, and shouted, "Come on, slowpokes!" Nathan smiled. That little girl who once handed him half a cookie at 30,000 feet had handed him something more. A reason to live again, to love again, to come home. And that's how a simple moment on a plane changed 3 lives forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories and hit the hype button to support more tales that heal and inspire. We bring you emotional, heartwarming stories that remind us of the power of love, kindness, and second chances. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay hopeful and never underestimate the impact of a single act of compassion. Soul-Stirring Stories. Stories that touch your soul.